On a scorching afternoon in Victoria Island, Lagos, traffic grinding to its usual crawl, there stands a woman at the traffic light with a tray of bottled water balanced perfectly on her head. She moves between cars with practiced efficiency, her wrapper faded from too many washes, her face shielded by a worn baseball cap. And sitting in the back of a Range Rover, air conditioning on full blast, adjusting his Patek Philippe watch before a board meeting, is Emeka Okonkwo. They call him Emeka. He has everything: a tech empire valued at $2.8 billion, properties across 3 continents, influence that makes politicians return his calls. But something makes him look up from his phone, something about the way this woman moves, the grace in her steps despite the weight she carries, makes his heart stop cold. He leans forward, studying her through the tinted window, and when she approaches his car, when she taps on the glass with that familiar rhythm, 3 quick knocks, pause, 2 more, his entire world fractures, because it's her. The only woman who ever made him believe in destiny. The girl who vanished 13 years ago with nothing but a note that said, "I'm sorry. Forget me." And now she's here, selling pure water in Lagos traffic, looking like life has stripped away everything except the will to survive. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. What you're about to hear is the kind of love that carves itself into your DNA. The kind that doesn't fade even when 13 years pass without explanation. The kind that turns a man who conquered the business world into someone who realizes he never conquered the one thing that mattered. At 34 years old, Emeka Okonkwo is the founder of Afritech Solutions, a fintech company that revolutionized mobile banking across West Africa. CNN featured him. The president praised him. He's been linked to actresses and business moguls, women whose beauty could launch campaigns. But none of them were Adaeze. Adaeze Nwankwo. That's the name that still pulls him from sleep at 3 a.m., drenched in the kind of sweat that has nothing to do with Lagos heat. This afternoon, stuck in traffic on Ahmadu Bello Way, staring at her for the first time in over a decade, Emeka will discover that some disappearances aren't mysteries. They're sacrifices, and some secrets, when they finally surface, don't bring peace. They bring earthquakes. The woman selling water doesn't recognize him yet. The tinted windows, the expensive car, the years that have transformed him from that lanky boy in King's College uniform to this man in bespoke suits. But Emeka recognizes everything about her. The way she tilts her head when calculating change, the slight limp in her left leg that wasn't there before, the missing brightness in eyes that once held entire universes. It all started at King's College, Lagos, 18 years ago. Emeka wasn't always a billionaire. He was the son of a civil servant from Enugu, living with his uncle in Surulere after his father's modest salary couldn't cover both school fees and living expenses in the East. His uncle, Obi Okonkwo, was a retired army officer who believed in 2 things: discipline and education. Every morning at 5 a.m., Emeka was up. Prayer, exercise, study. Then the long commute to Victoria Island for school. Uncle Obi would tell him, "Nuokem, a man who doesn't fight for what matters is not a man at all, but a wise man knows which battles will destroy him. And when God puts someone in your path, you don't take it lightly." Emeka took it seriously the day Adaeze Nwankwo transferred into his SS2 class. She walked in during second period, January of 2007, wearing the crisp white and blue uniform, her hair braided in precise cornrows, carrying herself with quiet confidence that made the rowdy boys fall silent. She sat 3 seats ahead of him, and he spent the entire chemistry lesson watching the way she underlined her notes. Precise and purposeful. The way her shoulders straightened when Mrs. Okoro asked a question she knew the answer to. It took him 2 weeks to approach her. 2 weeks of watching her eat lunch alone under the mango tree, always with a novel Chinua Achebe, Chimamanda, Wole Soyinka classics that seemed too heavy for someone their age. Finally, after an inter-house sports competition where she'd won the 400 meters race, he jogged over as she cooled down. "You're fast," he said, immediately feeling stupid. Of course she was fast. Everyone had just watched her win. She looked at him with these deep brown eyes that seemed to see past his nervousness. Emeka Okonkwo, you sit 4 rows back and you solve equations in your head before writing them down. I've noticed. He'd laughed, surprised. You've been watching me. I noticed things, she said simply. Then, after a pause, you can walk me to the gate if you want, but only if you tell me why you're really here. So, he told her the truth. That he thought she was brilliant. That she seemed lonely. That he understood lonely because moving to Lagos from Enugu had been like learning to breathe different air, and maybe they could figure out this city together. She smiled then, just slightly. That's either the bravest or the most naive thing anyone said to me. Can it be both? I guess we'll find out. They did find out. Over the next 3 years, they became inseparable. Emeka would meet Adaeze at the BRT stop on Adeniji Adele every morning, and they'd ride together, talking about everything. She told him about her father, who owned a struggling printing press in Mushin, about her mother who died giving birth to her younger brother, about her dreams of becoming a lawyer, of fighting for people who couldn't afford justice. He told her about his parents still in Enugu, about the pressure of being the first in his family expected to make it big, about the scholarship applications he was filling out because university abroad was the only way to learn what he needed to build the Africa he dreamed of. They studied together at the National Library, shared meat pie and la casera at lunch, debated politics and philosophy, and whether Nollywood could ever truly compete with Hollywood. Uncle Obi loved Adaeze, would make extra jollof rice on Sundays, and insist she join them. That girl has steel in her spine, Uncle Obi would say. Don't let her go, Emeka. Women like that, they're rare. I won't, Uncle, I promise. By their final year, Emeka knew. He knew with the kind of certainty that doesn't need logic. Adaeze Nwankwo was the person God had placed in his path. Uncle Obi's words echoed constantly. When God gives you someone, you hold tight. So Emeka started saving. Every naira, from his weekend job tutoring students in mathematics. Every bit of money, from helping Uncle Obi's friends with computer repairs. Every kobo. By March of their final year, 2 months before graduation, he'd saved enough. He went to a small jewelry shop in Yaba and bought a simple gold ring. Nothing extravagant, but it was real, and it was for her. He planned everything. The proposal would be at Bar Beach at sunset, the Friday after their final WAEC exam. He'd arranged for his friend with a car to drive them, bought a blanket, even practiced his Igbo proposal speech with Uncle Obi. The Thursday before, Emeka told Adaeze he had something important to show her on Friday evening. Could she meet him at Bar Beach at 6 p.m? She'd smiled, touched his cheek gently. Of course, I'll be there, I promise. That was the last time Emeka Okonkwo ever spoke to Adaeze Nwankwo. Friday came. He got to Bar Beach at 5:30, spread out the blanket, checked the ring box approximately 500 times. 6 p.m. arrived. Then 6:30. 7. He called her Nokia phone. It was switched off. He waited until the beach vendors started packing up, until the sun had fully set, and mosquitoes were feasting on his arms. Saturday morning, he went to her father's printing press in Mushin. The gates were locked, a for lease sign hanging crooked on the fence. Neighbors said the family had moved out overnight. They left in a hurry, one woman said. Like they were running from something. He tried calling again. The number didn't exist anymore. Adaeze's father was gone. Her younger brother was gone. She was gone. No note beyond the one slipped under Uncle Obi's door that Saturday afternoon, written in her handwriting. I'm sorry. Forget me. You deserve better than what I can give you. For months, Emeka searched. He went to hospitals, police stations, even tracked down her distant relatives in Anambra. Nothing. Uncle Obi held him when he cried, reminded him that God's ways were mysterious but purposeful. If she's meant to return to you, she will, Uncle Obi said. But you cannot stop living, Emeka. You must build the life you're meant for. Years passed. Emeka threw himself into computer science at University of Lagos, then his master's at Stanford. He built Afritech from nothing, working 20-hour days, turning heartbreak into hunger for success. He dated other women, beautiful, accomplished women, but none of them understood him the way Adaeze had. None of them challenged his thinking or made him feel truly known. Uncle Obi passed when Emeka was 28, and he'd stood at the burial in their village in Enugu, wondering if Adaeze knew, if she'd care, if she ever thought about the boy who'd planned to propose at Bar Beach. Now, here he was, 34 years old, a billionaire, stuck in Victoria Island traffic, watching through tinted glass as the woman who shattered his heart hawked pure water in the brutal Lagos sun. Emeka's brain couldn't process it. His driver, Ibrahim, was asking something about the air conditioning, but the words sounded underwater. All Emeka could see was Adaeze, moving between cars with a tray that must weigh heavily on her neck. Her wrapper was threadbare, her feet in cheap rubber slippers, the kind that cost 200 naira at Balogun Market. He hit the button to lower the window before he could stop himself. Adaeze. She froze mid-step, the bottles on her tray rattling. Slowly, so slowly, she turned toward his voice. And when their eyes met, when recognition dawned on her face, she dropped the tray. Water bottles exploded across the asphalt, cars honking as they swerved, but Emeka didn't hear any of it. He was already out of the Range Rover, moving toward her, watching her back away like he was something terrifying. "No," she whispered. "No, you can't be here. You can't see me like this. What happened to you?" His voice came out rough, broken. "Adaeze, what the hell happened? Please." She was looking around frantically, eyes wild. "Just go. Pretend you didn't see me." Other hawkers were staring now. Traffic was moving again, horns blaring at the abandoned Range Rover blocking a lane. Ibrahim had gotten out, looking concerned and confused. "I'm not going anywhere," Emeka said firmly. "Get in the car." "I can't." "You don't understand." "Then make me understand." He gestured to Ibrahim. "We're taking her home. Now." "Oga." "The meeting," Ibrahim started. "Cancel everything." Emeka's voice left no room for argument. He looked at Adaeze, really looked at her, and saw what he'd missed in the initial shock. She wasn't just poor. She was terrified. Her hands were shaking, and not from dropping the tray. She kept glancing over her shoulder, like expecting someone to materialize from the chaos of Lagos traffic. "There are people watching," she said quietly. "Bad people. If they see you with me, let them watch." Emeka was already guiding her toward the Range Rover. "Whatever this is, we'll handle it together." She resisted for another moment. Then something in her broke. Her shoulders sagged, and she let him help her into the back seat. As soon as the door closed and the blessed coolness of the air conditioning hit them, she started crying. Not loud, theatrical tears. The silent kind that hurt worse, because they came from somewhere too deep for sound. "When's the last time you ate?" Emeka asked, his heart breaking with every shudder of her thin shoulders. "Yesterday morning. Bread and tea." "Jesus Christ." He leaned forward. "Ibrahim, nearest restaurant. Now." "There's yellow chili just ahead, sir." "That works. Go." The drive took 10 minutes through traffic that seemed determined to test every ounce of Emeka's patience. Adaeze sat pressed against the opposite door, staring out the window like she was memorizing her last glimpses of freedom. "I can't afford yellow chili," she said quietly. "I can. Emeka, you don't understand what you're right. I don't understand. So you're going to explain it to me." He kept his voice gentle, despite the storm raging inside him. "But first, you're going to eat. Then we'll figure out the rest." Inside the restaurant, the contrast was jarring. Air conditioning, soft lighting, the smell of grilled chicken and jollof rice. The hostess took one look at Adaeze's hawker clothes and Emeka's designer suit, and confusion flickered across her face. But one glare from Emeka killed any questions. He ordered everything: jollof rice, fried rice, grilled chicken, plantain, salad. "Chapman, water, malt." Adaeze protested weakly, but when the food arrived, she ate like someone who'd forgotten what full felt like. Emeka watched, memorizing every detail. The scar on her left hand that hadn't been there before. The way her collarbones jutted too sharply. The fading bruise on her wrist that she kept trying to hide with her sleeve. "Who hit you?" he asked quietly. She stopped eating, fork suspended halfway to her mouth. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." Adaeze set down the fork carefully, like it might shatter. "Do you remember what my father did?" "The printing press." "Of course. It wasn't just a printing press." Her voice went hollow. "My father was printing something else. Counterfeit documents, fake certificates, forged bank statements, false identities. He didn't start out that way. But when my mother died, when the medical bills came and the business was failing, he got desperate. And desperate men make terrible choices. The pieces started falling into horrible place. That's why you ran. The people he was working for, they weren't just criminals, Emeka. They were part of something bigger, a syndicate. When my father wanted out after graduation, when he tried to stop, they threatened him, said we were all liabilities, that the only way to guarantee our silence was." Her voice cracked. "They gave him a choice. Disappear completely or watch his children die." Emeka felt ice spreading through his veins. "So you just left?" "Let me think you didn't care. I cared so much, it destroyed me every single day." Tears were flowing now, unchecked. "My father said if we told anyone, if we gave any warning, they'd kill whoever we contacted to punish us. I wanted to tell you, God. I wanted to so badly. But my father said if I did, if you tried to help, they'd hurt you to get to us." "Where did you go?" "Abuja first. New identities, new names." "My father found work as a mechanic. My brother and I finished secondary school there under different surnames. For 5 years. We thought we were safe." "What happened 5 years in?" Adaeze's face crumpled. "My father got sick, liver cancer. The treatments were expensive, and we had no real papers, no insurance. I was working 3 jobs, but it wasn't enough. Then I met someone. His name was Femi Adeyemi." The name landed like a punch. Emeka knew it. Every Nigerian in tech knew it. Femi Adeyemi, CEO of Prime Shore Energy, a man with contracts worth billions and a reputation for ruthlessness hidden behind charitable donations. "He offered to help," Adaeze continued, bitterness seeping into every word. "Paid for my father's treatments, gave my brother a scholarship, said he was just being kind, helping a struggling family. I was 23, stupid, and so grateful. We started dating. Let me guess, he wasn't being kind. The moment my father died, everything changed. Femi said I owed him, that the debt was mine to repay. He had documentation, papers I'd signed when I was desperate and not reading carefully. They said I'd agreed to terms of service that basically made me his property." Emeka's hands clenched into fists on the table. "That's not legal. Neither is forcing someone to hawk on the streets to learn humility, but here we are." Adaeze's laugh was broken glass. "For years, he controlled everything, where I walked, where I lived, who I spoke to. He never hit me where it would show, was too smart for that. But the psychological torture, the constant threats against my brother, the surveillance, I was in prison with no bars. Your brother. Where is he now?" Pain flashed across her face, so sharp it was physical. "University of Ibadan. Computer science, final year. Femi pays his fees, which means if I run, if I disobey, my brother's education ends. Worse, Femi has threatened to plant drugs in his room, get him arrested, ruin his future. So you stayed." "I stayed. For 7 years. I stayed. Then 2 months ago, something changed." She looked at him directly for the first time since they'd sat down. "Femi has a daughter from his first marriage. She's 14 now, beautiful, innocent. And he started making comments about her, about how she reminded him of me at that age, about grooming her properly." The bottom dropped out of Emeka's stomach. "No, I realized if I stayed silent one more day, I'd be complicit in whatever he planned. So I ran, left everything. My brother doesn't even know where I am. I can't risk contacting him because Femi monitors everything. I've been hawking for 6 weeks, sleeping in an unfinished building in Aja, trying to save enough money to disappear properly. Maybe get to Ghana, or somewhere Femi's reach doesn't extend. There was so much to process. Anger at the lost years. Fury at the men who'd controlled and damaged her. But underneath everything was Uncle Obi's voice. As clear as if he were sitting at this table. A man who doesn't fight for what matters is not a man at all. You thought I'd understand, Emeka said quietly. I thought you'd pity me. The brilliant Emeka Okonkwo, looking at what became of the girl who broke his heart. You didn't break my heart, Adaeze. You saved my life. He reached across the table, slowly, giving her space to pull back. When she didn't, he took her scarred hand. Because if you'd told me that night, I would have tried to fight your father's enemies. I would have gotten us both killed, trying to be a hero. She looked at him with something between wonder and despair. But look at you now. Look at what you became. And look at me. I see you. I see the woman who survived things that would break most people, who protected her brother at the cost of her own freedom, who's still fighting even when the world has tried to crush her. He squeezed her hand gently. And I see the girl I loved at 17, who's still in there despite everything. That girl is dead, Emeka. Then we'll figure out who you are now. Together. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyer. We're going to get you out of this contract. We're going to protect your brother. And Femi Adeyemi is going to learn what happens when you threaten someone under my protection. He has resources you can't imagine. Connections to people in government, law enforcement. So do I. Emeka's voice went hard. And mine are cleaner. You're not doing this alone anymore, Adaeze. Neither is your brother. Before she could respond, her own phone, an ancient Nokia that looked like it had survived a war, started ringing. Her face went white. That's his ringtone. He has spies everywhere. The spies must have seen when you picked me up. She looked at Emeka with pure terror. You have to leave. Now. Before he makes you a target too. Let him try. Emeka stood up, his mind already racing through strategies. Ibrahim, we're going to the penthouse. Now. And called Dapo. I need him to pull security footage from the traffic camera at Amadou Bello and Adeola Odeku. I want to know who was watching. As they headed for the car, Adaeze's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Finally, she answered it, her voice small and defeated. Hello? Even from a distance. Emeka could hear the voice on the other end. Smooth, educated, threatening. Who picked you up? I have people saying you got into a Range Rover. Whose vehicle, Adaeze? Nobody. A kind stranger gave me a ride because I was tired. Don't lie to me. You know what happens when you lie. Give me the name, or I start making calls to Ibadan. Emeka took the phone from her hand before she could stop him. Femi Adeyemi, this is Emeka Okonkwo. I believe we need to have a conversation. The silence on the other end stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then, laughter, cold and calculating. The tech billionaire. This is unexpected. You don't know what you've gotten yourself into, Okonkwo. I know exactly what I've gotten into. And I know that by Monday morning, your contracts with Adaeze are going to be exposed for what they are, human trafficking dressed up in legal language. I also know that your business dealings might not survive the scrutiny that's about to come your way. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Stay away from her. Stay away from her brother. Or, I will make it my personal mission to dismantle everything you've built. Big words from someone who just made an enemy he can't afford to have. Funny. Emeka's voice went deadly quiet. I was thinking the same thing about you. He hung up and handed the phone back to Adaeze, whose face showed shock and something that might have been hope. You shouldn't have done that, she whispered. You have no idea what he's capable of. Neither does he. Emeka opened the Range Rover door for her. And he's about to find out what I'm capable of when someone I love is threatened. The word hung in the air between them. Love. Present tense. After 13 years, after everything, after she'd sold water in traffic while he'd built an empire, love. Adaeze climbed into the car, and as they drove through Lagos traffic toward a future neither of them could predict, she asked the question that had haunted her for 13 years. Why would you still care? After everything I put you through, why would you risk your reputation, your business, your safety for me? Emeka looked at her, and the boy he'd been and the man he'd become spoke with one voice. Because when I was 17, God put someone in my life who taught me what love meant. And my uncle taught me that a man fights for what matters. You matter, Adaeze. You've always mattered. I lost you once because powerful men decided they could control people's lives. I'm not losing you again. Something in her expression shifted. Not quite hope, but maybe the shadow of its possibility. I'm not the girl you remember. That girl died somewhere between Abuja and becoming Femi's prisoner. Then we'll figure out who you are now. Together. No running. No secrets. No more surviving alone. She wanted to believe him. He could see it in the way her fingers curled around the seat belt, anchoring herself to something solid. Before she could respond, Emeka's phone exploded with notifications, messages from his legal team, his head of security, even his PR director. Somehow, impossibly fast, word was spreading. The billionaire had confronted Femi Adeyemi over a woman. Social media was already churning. It's starting, Adaeze said, watching his screen. The war you just declared. Good. Emeka typed rapidly, sending instructions to his team. Let it start. Because he picked the wrong woman to cage. That night, in Emeka's penthouse, overlooking Victoria Island, the same waters where he'd once planned to propose under sunset, Adaeze stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the city that had both destroyed and saved her. Emeka found her there after making calls to lawyers, security experts, and his friend Dapo, the investigative journalist, who'd been dying to expose Primeshore Energy's corrupt practices for years. Can I stand here with you? He asked, respecting her space. It's your home. It's your home too, for as long as you need it. She turned to him then, really looked at him. Why are you doing this, Emeka? The real reason. Is it guilt? Pity? Some need to be a hero. He considered lying, making it about justice or righteousness. But she deserved truth. Because when you disappeared, part of me disappeared too. I built all of this. He gestured at the expensive penthouse. The view, the evidence of his success, trying to fill a hole that nothing could fill. Money, achievements, other relationships. None of it mattered because the person I wanted to share it with was gone. And now you're here. Broken and scared and nothing like I imagined. But you're here. And I'm not fool enough to think that's an accident. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I can't promise I'm still the girl you loved. That girl is gone. Then I'll learn to love who you've become. If you'll let me try. The silence stretched between them, full of 13 years of what-ifs and might-have-beens. Finally, Adaeze spoke. My brother. If we do this, if we fight Femi, my brother becomes a target. I can't. We're bringing him here. Tonight. I've already sent people to Ibadan. Your brother will be under 24-hour security before Femi even knows he's gone. Her eyes went wide. You did what? You're not the only one who can be decisive when it matters. Emeka pulled out his phone, showed her the messages. My head of security, Ade, is ex-SSS. He's personally extracting your brother from campus. By midnight, he'll be here. Safe. She collapsed against him then, and he caught her, held her while she sobbed years of trauma into his chest. Her whole body shook with the force of emotions she'd been holding back for so long. Why? She kept asking. Why would you do all this? Because Uncle Obi taught me that when God puts someone in your path, it's not random, it's purpose. He pulled back enough to see her face. You were my purpose at 17. Maybe I was meant to become who I am, so I'd be strong enough to protect you when you needed it most. Maybe that's why everything happened the way it did. She looked up at him, mascara streaked and broken, and more beautiful than anyone he'd ever seen. And if I'm too damaged, if I can never be whole again, then we'll be broken together, which means we won't be broken at all. It was the same thing he'd said to her at 15, under a mango tree at King's College, when they were young and the world hadn't yet shown them how cruel it could be. She recognized the words, recognized the boy in the man, and smiled through her tears. You remembered. I remembered everything. Every conversation, every dream you had, every moment, it's all still here. Waiting. Before she could respond, his phone rang. Ade, his head of security. Sir, we have the package. Brother is secure, but we have a situation. Femi's people tried to intercept us at the campus gate. There was a confrontation. Emeka's jaw tightened. Is the boy hurt? No, sir. But they know we have him. This is going to escalate quickly. Let it escalate. Just get him here safely. He hung up and looked at Adaeze, who'd heard every word. Fear and hope warred on her face. They tried to take him. They failed. He'll be here in 4 hours. But Adaeze, you need to understand what this means. Femi isn't going to back down quietly. This is going to get ugly. Legal battles, media warfare, possibly worse. Are you ready for that? She squared her shoulders, and for a moment, he saw the girl who'd won that 400-meter race all those years ago. The fighter who'd survived 13 years of hell and was still standing. I've been ready for 13 years. I just didn't have anyone standing with me before. You do now. Comment part 2 if you're still watching and want to know what happens next. Will Emeka protect Adaeze from Femi's retaliation? What secrets will come out about Prime Shore Energy? And can two people broken by time and trauma really find their way back to each other? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and tell me where you are watching from. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the continuation of this story. And remember, sometimes the person you lost wasn't meant to stay lost. Sometimes God is just preparing you both for the reunion that will change everything.